So hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Great to have each and every one of you here with us today. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the focus to master skills after connecting to our personal power. So last week was all about personal power. We did a little bit about personal power last week. We're going to dive into personal power as well as focus today to really see, in a sense, how they both flow one into the other. How focusing to our focus to master skills after connecting to our personal power. Today is November 28th. This is episode 8 of 2023. And again, welcome to BG5 Live, where we explore the weekly influences that affect our life, our career, and business through the lens of BG5. BG5 is the career and business application of the human design system. So before we dive in and explore, let's say a quick hello to our panel. So let's start with Shelly. Hello, Shelly. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here. Love to be focusing on the details and figuring out how to master our skills. So this will be great. Can't wait for the conversation.
Beautiful. Well, welcome, Shelly. And let's go to Banu. Hey, Banu, welcome.
Hello. Hi, everyone. And welcome to BG5 Live. It's a great week. I had so much done this week already. I'm glad for the background frequency. Really, I had tons done. And it's really good to speak about it now with all of you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Banu. And let's go to Boris. Hey, Boris, welcome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BG5 Live. Yes, with trade 9 and 34. So one of those I have, and the other one I don't have. So I'm curious to learn more about trade 9, the focus, which I always thought I have, but maybe I can learn something to even better focus. So let's see. I'm curious.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Boris. And I want to say a huge congratulations to Boris. I just approved Boris's final project. So Boris is now a BG5 consultant. So congratulations. Very excited for you.
Thank you.
Yay. Beautiful. And let's go to Chris. Hey, Chris, welcome.
Hello, everybody. I am glad to be here today. Let's get focused.
All right, let's go ahead and jump in. I love that, Chris. And my name is Karen Sherwood. And again, welcome to BG5 Live. So again, if you are new to a BG5, I recommend downloading your chart. You can see if you have trait 9, it's down here in the energy resource. Also, trait 34 is here in the energy resource as well. So take a look at your own chart, see if you have trait 34, see if you have trait 9, or see if there's someone in your world, in your work, in your environment, in your family that has either trait 34 or 9 in their design. And if you are here live in our Zoom room, we would love to hear from you as well. So if you're here live in our Zoom room, as we go through each of our panel, at the end, if you want to raise your hand, we will bring you here live. We would love to see you on camera, and we would love to have your contribution as well. So with that, let's dive in. So again, today's theme is looking at personal power, taking a look at what we experienced last week and how this personal power shows up in business, as well as focus. So we move from personal power to focus. So again, the focus to master skills after connecting to our personal power. So when we take a look at this week coming up, this is all about focus. And we can see that the life work themes are about planning, are about focus. They're also about identification. And this is all purpose fulfilled through transformation. So when we take a look at trait 9 is about details. This is taming the power of the small. So this is the potential, and potential can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects, right? So we don't want to overlook the details. So this is paying attention to the details and really being able to focus. It is grounded by trait 16. Trait 16 is all about skills and enthusiasm. In order to develop our skills, we must be able to focus. These are both logical traits. These are both collective traits. They are both about sharing. And if we take a look at skills, this is about sharing your skills after you've mastered them, and you master them through enthusiasm and through focus. Trait 16 of skills is the great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. Now, last week, again, we're talking a lot about this generative energy. Last week, we took a look at trait 34, this personal power. Power is only great when its display or use serves the common good. And it's grounded by trait 20, contemplation in the now, the recognition and awareness in the now, which transforms understanding into right action. Now, one of the reasons why I want to focus on these two traits, and again, bring up trait 34 once again, is because this has a huge impact on where we are moving forward in the future. We are right at that precipice of shifting from the era of planning into the era of the individual. And these are two of the shifts that are changing. So when we take a look at trait 34, this is the nature, the natural conditions for behavior or survival. This is how we act in the world. It's our guide for behavior. And in the era of planning that we're moving out of, it is logical focus sensibility. It is trait 9. We're going to take a look at trait 9 today. This is a balanced and responsible approach to problem solving by focusing on the details, and it's figuring things out logically. We are now shifting, and we're shifting from logical understanding, and we're shifting into really following your gut, following your instincts, this individual empowerment in the era of the individual, which is all about individual power. So it's common sense in knowing when enough is enough. Interesting enough, last week I completely sort of shut down from all the busyness, whereas Banu was very busy. I was like, okay, I just need to take a break. I need to utilize my energy to recharge and really focus in on my own personal energy. So you could have experienced it in multiple different ways. So this is ultimately, as we move into the new era, this is about trusting your inner knowing. So today we are going to take a look at the 9, and we're going to take a look at the 34, and we're going to recognize, again, this sort of shift from this logical focus sensibility to really trusting our inner knowing. So in taking a look at both the 9 and the 34. So let's start with this focus. And again, this is what we just moved into, this focus in business. And focus in business is very important. We don't want to overlook the details. This is potential that can be fulfilled through detailed attention, again, to all pertinent aspects. This is the logical demands, and the logical demands determination and continued experimentation. And so when we're taking a look at the logical circuitry, it's about doing things over and over and over again to master and to perfect them. So this continued examination, this continued experimentation to take a look at the details of how we can, in a sense, master the skill at a deeper level. What are the things that are out? What are the things that we need to put into place? And like a funnel, this trait focuses its enormous power to concentrate on what's meaningful and worthwhile for us. And it can zero in for long periods of time on all of the detailed aspects of a project or an issue. And it can also, because it's very logical, it can properly test or assess the formulas both for yourself and for others. And one of the things that we'll talk about, especially when we utilize focus within a business setting, is someone who has trait 9 can bring focus to an individual or into a group. So if you're having problems focusing, if you're scattered all over the place, for example, if you needed to study for an exam, find someone who has trait 9, have them sit next to you, and they will help you focus. Or if you're in a business setting and things are scattered all over the place, someone with trait 9 also can help you focus. Now, with that, again, what we are moving forward to into the future, but what we experienced last week is trait 34. This is personal power in business. And this is the potent and impressive source of energy that empowers us towards individualization. Again, that's what we're moving to. We're moving towards really knowing who we are as an individual. And this is displaying and celebrating our uniqueness in the world. And though admired and even sought after, your energy is simply not available to others. This is energy for you to use in a somewhat selfish manner, but you need to use it in a selfish way for yourself for the common good. And selfish energy, again, can be used and should be used in the service to common good. And the moment that power is identified with awareness, it turns into deeds. So it is something that can quickly move from recognizing the power, that response in the power, and then being able to manifest it or get it out into the world. And it can be connected in three different ways. It can be connected towards personal expression and being able to express it. This creates an express builder strength. So if you have charisma, which is one of the strengths, charisma is an express builder strength connected to the throat. We have towards personal behavior in the 10. This is identity and behavior of self, or towards personal intuition. So those are the three traits that trait 34 can also empower. So with all of this, Chris, I know that you have both trait 34 and trait 9. So I would love for you to kick us off. And what is your experience in utilizing both trait 34 and trait 9 in business?
Yeah, trait 34, thanks, Karen, is really for me just sort of in the background. It always is sort of just this energy push in the things I kind of want to do or accomplish or I see are needed out in the world. And it doesn't really, it's not like a major focus for me. It's the empowerment to do, to get things done, to move forward, and to make sure that what I'm doing meets the situation in the now, in the moment. So for me, that's how that shows up. I do have it connected to the 57 of intuitive clarity and the 10, which brings the strength of conviction. And basically, when I have my mind made up, it's made up. And very little can persuade me otherwise unless there's some really compelling evidence. The 3457 just lets me kind of maneuver in the moment and use my energy in very fluid ways to respond when I need to change course or I need to quickly move in a different direction because something didn't work or it just wasn't important to me anymore. So that's how that shows up for me. I kind of want to shift to the 9 because the 9 is really intriguing to me. It's not one of those traits that are very like obvious in someone's design. They're sort of in the background, and it is an energy. It does actually have, it's an energy in the design. It's that laser focused energy that you were talking about, Karen. And for me, it really shows up as, in the first way it shows up is me preparing each week, doing research on the details for BG5 Live, and being able to provide examples that fit specifically to the content we're talking about. Some of the roles that it shows up for me as, and I'm just was thinking about my past roles, were like being an examiner of something, like you were talking about, that assessment, being able to connect the dots, really taking my time and testing things out, sorting things out, shifting through information. And ultimately, it's about refinement to kind of narrow into those patterns that really need to be brought to the surface. So some of the ways that this has shown up in my career is that I've been able to really do great work assessing issues, looking at trade-offs, making sure that the analysis was complete on projects, and even looking at all elements of the design. And some of that included like really creating executive summaries. So when I really get to the core essence of something, I can summarize it. And sometimes it takes iterations to get there. to get what's essential and to bring that up to the surface. So I've had to learn how to give myself like time and space and grace to make mistakes along the way, but eventually it gets to be finessed. And I think that's really an important quality. It's really about segmenting down into that single topic for me and holding it against the whole pattern. And how does it fit? And does it fit? And is it congruent? And then, for the testing for me, it's really about, I've done it in testing out marketing practices and sales funnels that I've learned. So I see what works and doesn't work. I've tested it by doing strategic planning and instructional design authoring, designing content to meet the goals, making sure that every piece fits and pulling out what no longer serves it. And I've also I've used it to revise learning tools or even create new patterns, which are really exciting when I get to do that. Some of the negatives for me about this trait, because I have to tell on myself, this is really important. You have to have a sort of a balance. Nothing's all positive. I can get analysis paralysis with this trait really easy and just stay focused on the details and not come up to the surface. And I also have this fear of kind of missing out on a critical element that I could miss, and it's going to undo everything and cause failure to a project. And I think the last thing I'll share is that it's interesting that it is, grounded by the 16 of skills. And I tend to attract people where I can really bring focus to a pattern to support their skills, to help them assess their performance or their development and help them refine and see what is missing that could take it to their skill set to the next level. And having that awareness was just like an aha for me, like, wow, I can be a coach, I could be a mentor, I could be somebody who's here to consult and develop people's skill sets. So that's how both of those aspects of my design show up for me. And thank you for letting me share.
Yes, brilliant, 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 Chris. Thank you so much. And I love all the details that you shared in all of the different aspects that you've used, both trait 34 and trait 9. So thank you so much, Chris. And Boris, you talked a little bit about this last week. You have the 34, but you don't have the 9. I'm interested in how both of these traits show up for you.
Yeah, I think that the 34 I mentioned last week already is this. I have the 3457. So it's this internal powerhouse, this intuitive knowing where I want to put my energy. And this is the integration circuitry. So it's self-empowerment. And that is really what I feel when there is something I want to do. It's just this upward forward pushing. I can't resist it. It's just a powerhouse. It's like a nuclear plant that suddenly kicks in, and energy. And that is based on the reaction that I got from the gut. And this is what it is. It's my gut decision engine. And it just moves me forward. It's kind of this unstoppable inner energy that like kicks in like a fire is ignited. And that is how I feel it. And this is in the meantime really my decision-making process is like, is the energy coming? Is this upward forward movement happening or not? And if it's happening, then I go. If it's not happening or like, undecided, then maybe later. So this is really what I feel, that this 34 is just my engine that is within me. And I don't have the 9. So it's funny because there is as well this focus in the inspiration center on top, which is heavily defined with me. So I was just listening to Chris, and Chris and I have a very similar kind of rave chart. We have like the 48, we have the 62. So there's all details and depth, and I can as well focus, but it's not this, I think, this energetic focus that I can sustain that for too long. It's not that I like to study a lot. I like studying, but it's just like interrupted. So I cannot keep a consistent focus on doing detailed work. I love details, but I need breaks. It's like 10 minutes studying and then I need to get a coffee, or the weather is nice outside. and then I leave it for a time, and then I come back to it. So for me, this is mentally focus I can do, which is inspiration function defined. This energetic focus, which is for me the 9, I don't have the energy to sustain it. I need breaks.
Yeah. Beautiful, Boris. Yeah, great explanation of both. And again, they're both different pressure functions where there is this focus, well, the energy in the 9 versus, like you said, the mental focus. Very, very different energies. And I love how you described the difference between the two. And Banu, you don't have either, but you've also been experiencing and kind of riding the wave, if you will, of the 34 of last week. So I would love to hear your experience of the 34 last week, and then also moving into the 9. And you've also had a lot of experiences with the 9 as well.
Yeah, so maybe I can mention a little bit around how we used it, how I used it as a manager with my team. So one of my teams that we set in vicinity, so we came together physically as well. You don't get to do that with all of your teams, right? If you work in a very corporate environment, but this team could come and sit in Aura. And there was one person that had the 9. And what would happen is, especially the Monday morning meetings, when everyone comes and we have that like 10 o'clock or 9:30 meeting, you directly go and the team meets, we get your coffee. So there's always chit chat around what happened over the weekend. How are the kids doing? What did you do this weekend? And then people drag on and on and on, and you can never start the meeting. So what would happen is if he was really engaged, let's say he's on his phone, he's not focused on what we're going to speak, like the wife calls for a child thing and they're writing. If he was scattered, we could never focus, we could never get started. Okay, so all I needed to do was ask him to concentrate. I would say, come on, we got to start the meeting, and why don't you kick it off with your first point, because everybody has some things to talk about, there's an agreed agenda. And I would invite him to speak first, because if he speaks first on his topic, then he needs to focus because he's going to speak anyways. And then everybody gets focused on the meeting. So that was my little thing that I used with the team, and it worked perfectly fine. You would be amazed. And also during like longer meetings, if he drifted off, people usually drifted off. It was very interesting to note, because not everybody knows he has the 9, but I knew, of course. So if he's distracted, the team like disappears. I'm like, okay, let's take a coffee break for 5 minutes, and then we'll be back, and then we can reconcentrate on things. So it's of good use. And like in the cubicles, I made sure I sat next to him so I could concentrate on things. So it's good use, right? If you know someone who has the 9, you can always ride the wave and benefit from their focus. So it's a good thing, especially if you're trying to get through things. So that's really my experience with the 9. And it really, I think, like of the people I know with the 9, they're really good at assessing the formulas, thinking logically through things, and also helping their team, other people do this. So it's as if they are an advisor in that sense. They can really, make sure people are not scattered so much. And one other maybe quite funny thing I want to share with the 34 is, because I'm like giving examples from being a manager, if you have someone in your team with a 34, you just got to make sure they're not just doing things to keep themselves busy, because they have this huge power, and then they decide they want to do A, B, C, and D, and they try to do all of it, and they're running around, and sometimes they can't concentrate on prioritizing the important thing. That's been my experience with the 34s that I managed as a person, as a people manager. So specifically in my one-on-ones with the people who had the 34, I made sure, like, okay, here's the 10 things you decided you want to do. Which 3 do you want to pick this week so we can get through it? Chris, if you have any comments on that one, or Boris, but me as a manager who doesn't have it, this has been my experience. Okay, they're laughing. Maybe they agree.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you, either Chris or Boris, how how that shows up for you, what Banu just said.
I just so was laughing, and I saw Boris chuckling too, because you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I could be, yeah, I really do need to like have only 3 goals to work on in front of me at any one time. If I have a list of 35, I'm going to try and multitask it all, and then I'm going to fail because my focus wants to dive in. So I think it's really brilliant that that was a very keen observation, managing the 9 on your team. And yeah, and I mean the 34 on your team, to understand that we can get scattered in our energy and try and do it all. So brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Anything, Boris, you would like to add?
I was just laughing when Banu was explaining it. It's like I felt in the company I was working in. It's just like I would do 10 things at the same time. It's just like all energy goes in. And I have as well an undefined willpower, meaning that I want to convince as well by my doing. So I was loading myself with work and work and work, and I finished all. And that's the thing. And then it was like, how did I do that? It was like working 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day, but I finished it. That was like, I committed to it, I do it. Was it healthy? No. And it's just, and it was as well for work that I didn't like to do. And that is for me the funny thing, that once this like the doing starts, it continues. It's just like the energy is there. Is it the right decision I've taken at that time to do something? Yeah, when I was still doing it, I never knew anything about human design at that point in time, or BG5, which was like giving me the indicators for my gut decision making strategy. I was just like exhausting myself. That's what happened. So,
Wow.
but I can clearly see it's having somebody with a 34 in a team, powerhouse, giving the work, or he or she would do it. It's just,
Yeah.
but
One more
have
thing.
somebody to
One more
focus these
example.
people like on the work to do. Like, look, these are the 3 main things that you would have really to finish. 4, 5, 6, 7 can come later. I think this is the important piece, that yes, bring them into focus, give them a kind of direction, and point them to the right priorities. That is key.
Yeah, Banu.
Yeah, one more thing. When Boris was talking, another thing that came to me that I want to mention about the 34. My experience with the people with the 34 is they should want to work on that subject. Okay. So if as a manager, I decided that that person needed to do 5 things, or these 5 things are the important things they got to focus on and prioritize, and the person does not agree, and their gut does not, they don't have the energy for it, they will never do it. So they have this huge power, and when we say it's for them only, doing the things that they want, it would be the next one-on-one. How are we doing on this one? Oh, there's a glitch and there's this thing, and then it never gets done. If their gut says no to something, it's very hard for anybody as a manager as well to convince them that it needs to be done, I think. So that's another experience that I have. And Chris and
Oh, you just muted yourself. Yeah, exactly.
oh, sorry, I did. Yeah.
Any response from Chris or Boris?
Well, I also love that Danielle in the chat said, yes, that's correct, Banu. Absolutely. And oh my gosh, if I have some creative ways to get out of work I don't want to do. When I don't have a gut response or energy for it, I can find ways to kind of get around it. So I think that's a tricky thing for a builder who does have the 34. If you have that person on a team, if they're a manager, sometimes they also think that my way is the right way, and and not everybody. Maybe they feel it for themselves, but it may not be correct for everybody on the team as well. So that's the other side of that, I think, that you just made me aware of. So sometimes I have to check myself and make sure that it's not that when I say yes to a task, it's not coming from my head, it's coming from the gut response. And that's a really big awareness for a builder or an express builder.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think it's a really great awareness as an advisor to ask the builders, especially those that, I think any builder, but especially those that have the 34, is this something that you want to do, and have them respond? Because like you said, Banu, if their response is no, there's no amount of pushing or forcing them that's going to be able to move them to get it done.
Exactly. And I think this brings, I know it's just a little off the top subject, but maybe we can discuss it, but I must say it. So the way the business world is currently organized, people have their silos. So you have a sales manager managing, let's say, certain accounts, and I as a manager think something needs to be done with that account. And if the gut response of the person is no, who is going to do it? Do I give their partner to somebody else? So the way the current business world is organized does not allow these flexibilities to be managed properly according to actually honoring the people. And that's the real diversity and inclusion, I believe, that needs to happen in the business world. Because if we could give the tasks to people based on their skills, based on what their decision-making strategy is actually telling them, what they feel inspired to do, then it would be so much better. It could be so much easier. So that's the adjustment the business world should get to. And I think it's working on it. Yes, now people are being hired based on their skills, not based on, their resumes and stuff and what they're aspired to do, kind of thing. We have room to improve, I think, as the whole business world currently, the state it's in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And with all of the things that we're talking about, I find it fascinating that trait 9 follows trait 34, right? You have all of this energy, but now what do you focus it on? So again, there are no accidents in the wheel, and it's a beautiful way also to remember it, and that energy does need focus. I'm absolutely brilliant, Banu, what you just shared, and has given me a whole other picture of how all of this works. And I love the responses from Boris and Chris and Danielle that really confirm this as well. So I would love to hear from you, Shelley. And Shelley, you don't have either trait as well. And especially in listening to all of this, I would love to hear your perspective.
Well, all I can say is, wow, you guys just enlightened all of us about this major personal power. And I had a whole pile of light bulbs going off with people and family members who I know who have this. And the thing that pops to mind is that it starts with each individual becoming aware of their own design. And like you mentioned, Chris, staying out of your head when making decisions. And that's what I think I've seen a lot of is people have the greatest of intentions to say, oh yeah, I want to help, I'll do that. But then nothing ever comes of it. And you go back and ask for, so, how are you doing with that? Oh, totally forgot it. Not even on my list anymore. And then they can end up feeling really bad or guilty about it, that they didn't get it done. So that first piece is what you talked about too, Banu, is for each individual to first know who they are and have their manager understand who they are, and to honor each person's decision-making. So individuals need to honor it in themselves and really rely on it, and have the everybody else have all of us respect each other's decision-making process. We had a family gathering just this weekend where everybody is trying to decide, pre-COVID, we used to have these huge gatherings of 16 to 20 people, and we would all always just go everywhere together. Even if we didn't feel like going, we'd go out of that social obligation or fear of missing out or whatever. And our last gathering was, we find ourselves doing smaller events now. And we were, a bunch of us gathered in the parking lot talking about another event, and most of us saying, we can't make it. And that's okay. And for everybody to feel okay and not feel guilty about not being able to be held to something that we would have thought was a societal obligation in the past. So that was really inspiring to me to see that just starting to happen naturally. And also it's most of my family members, so I have worked with all of them to learn about their own decision making and honor it as well. So I think as we continue with that process, we all will get to a better place where we're all able to set our boundaries clearly, and that everyone enters into things based on whatever their energy is telling them they can do. And so I think that's fantastic. I don't have the 9, but I do have the 52. And my husband has the 9. So I've experienced this a lot with him. It's one of our electromagnetic connections. Prior to really becoming aware of this, though, what I realized was having the 52 set the 9 up as a bit of a shadow for me. So I would try to focus and concentrate on the details. I would work really hard at digging out the details, and it was exhausting. And I would go to try to present them, and they would be all over the place. And I would find it really challenging to corral them and get them into some kind of sense and order. And Chris, what you talked about diving deep and going through several iterations to summarize them, I did that a lot in my previous job, and it would take me quite a lot of time. So whether you have this trait consistently or not, you may experience the aspects of it in different ways. Something that I noticed today as we've moved into this trait is that I spent all morning this morning focused on the details of something I'm writing, and I haven't been able to come back to it for quite a while. I wrote it quite some time ago, and all of a sudden today was the day I wanted to dive in and concentrate on all the details. Typically, I feel quite scattered when I try to do that. It's like my focus is everywhere, and I have to really force myself to look at the details. Where today it came so easily, I was shocked at how long I could sit in stillness and focus on all the details. And even today, when I joined the session, I actually had to take my glasses off because I can see more clearly today without my glasses than with them on. So that's just a strange little thing. So focus is really really here supporting us in this next week or so. I have watched my husband pump out so many details in his work that he does. He has a million spreadsheets that track absolutely every detail of everything. And it's what makes him, it's what balances him. He does that every Saturday. He sits down and fills out numerous spreadsheets, and that makes him feel, he feels like his week's not complete if he hasn't done that. So I find it really, I'm looking at it, my head spins going, oh my God, that's so much detail. How do you do that? So that is the trait that he's got. And I think when I learned about this trait and realized I didn't have it and it was a shadow, that I was expending a ton of energy trying to be really good at managing details. And when I let go of realizing that, no, I'm actually not here to focus on the details. There's my husband's better at that. There's other people that are better at that. I could let go and stop making myself wrong for not being able to concentrate on it. So that's the other aspect to keep in mind with the traits when you don't have them, is finding people to work with that do have them, so that you can save yourself a lot of stress and maybe save yourself from some burnout too.
Really good point, Shelley, especially if again you have trait 52, which is the harmonic trait on the other side. And like you said, it can then be a shadow that you think you should have it, or you may make yourself wrong that you don't. And again, realizing what you have and what you don't have, you can let go of what you don't have. Yes, Chris.
I just realized from Shelley's sharing, something energetic just clicked for me. When you're sharing, I relax. And you bring stillness to me in our conversations in a way that I can actually clear the clutter and take my thoughts even deeper. So I just want to first acknowledge that having somebody who has stillness around me allows me to focus even stronger. So the gift, Shelley, that you bring is that stillness so that focus can happen. And much like your husband, I just had that awareness that, for me, I track our finances to the penny every day. Investments, checking accounts, you name it. And it's like, and it gives me a sense of like happiness to do that, to know where things are on track or off track. So really brilliant sharing. And thank you for that realization.
Yeah,
Thanks, Chris, for pointing that out, because I do recognize that there are times when my husband just needs me to come and be in the room with him so that he can focus. He'll call me often and say, "Can you just come here for a few minutes?" And just my presence being there with him helps him get through something he was stumbling with or struggling with. So thank you for saying that, Chris. That feels really good for me as well to recognize that.
Oh, it's so fascinating to see these connections live in action and how they work and how we are really designed to work together. I think it's so cool and really, really fascinating. Just the uncovering of those dynamics and also what we went through earlier with Banu and being an advisor with two express builders and how you both responded and how Banu you've led your team. Again, I think these are really beautiful examples of how it shows up in real life. And you can literally see the dynamics happening as we're discussing these topics. I love it. Yes, Boris.
It's just something that popped in my mind and rather links like to the 34. At the end as well, what we do is communication. We talk with each other. We exchange our auras, we exchange energy, we talk, we have our body position and things like that. So there's a constant exchange of information and communication. And oral communication is one piece. And I was just doing my NLP coaching trainings and so on. And one of the first sessions was about communication, I and you communication. And funny enough, it was then the Monday after we had a team meeting, and my boss at that time said, we should do something about it. And with this communication, immediately my mind was saying, we is not me. I won't do anything about it. And in the past, I would have immediately started to do something, to build a spreadsheet, to build a presentation or whatever. The energy kicks in. Yes, I should do. I'm part of the team. I should do. And that is, I think, what is for me as well an indicator where something clicked, and it was, we is not me. There is no energy release within me for this we. It's I. It's not we, it's not you, it's I. And that is something that just came to my mind, is when we talk as well with people, how we engage people. Like for me, in the meantime, it's yes, no question. Do you want to do this work? Yes, no. That is how I want to be asked. And this is part of my career type. And I think this is what Banu mentioned as well before. If we know these nuances, we can change not only the private world, but as well the working world. Imagine what would happen if people love the work they do. Would they have the power and the energy to do it? I would bet so. And if, like, we as managers give them the work they don't like to do, how would the results be? Very good, or so yeah, maybe. And this is, I think, yeah, for me, absolutely the way forward. Everybody to understand their own strengths. This is the starting point. Knowing what I'm good at. Then I can use it to my advantage. Knowing what I'm not so good at, where my shadows are, I can use them as well to my advantage. I know it. I don't need to get triggered by this all the time. So yeah, I could go on and on and on and on. Just starting and looking at 34 and 9, it's just like everywhere. It's in the centers, in the functions, it's everywhere. And to understand that, I think this is the new way of working for me. This is the way forward. This is using the energy of individuals, of unique individuals, right? And this is for me the only way in the new way of working.
Yep. Absolutely.
Just
absolutely
to mention.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much, Boris. Yeah, amazing discussion. And I know there's a few of you that are here live in our Zoom room that also have either the 34 and the 9. And I think, Danielle, you have both the 34 and the 9. We would love to hear your experience as well.
Thank you, Karen. I had to laugh with Banu, her story, because that was very, very good that you were saying, oh, if your gut is not reacting on what it's saying, your powerhouse is not working. Yes, and you will make all kinds of things up to not do it. But the other thing is also, if I have 34 and 10 and 57, so there is a lot of there, I have a lot of power. And if I'm in a group and as a project manager, for instance, you also have to delegate tasks and things like that. If you don't use the right words, like Boris was saying, people won't connect. So I've been trying to every time change my language to see who's going to do it, or really delegating things to people and to see if people are doing it. Now I'm listening today to how you can use it. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to do everything, because if nobody was doing it, I was doing it because I had the power to do it. But yeah, I can't do everything. I have to communicate and get people going. So I've been trying to see how I can do that with the people around me. And I wish I knew this earlier. That would have helped me a lot. And then the other thing with the 9, I also have that one. I would sit in meetings where we talk about anything, and then we scatter around, and I would like, hey guys, what was the focus? Where we want to go? We want to step out of this meeting with. So I was out of myself already saying, hey, listen, back to where we were coming from. And now I understand because it's in my design. So that's really cool to see. But the other thing is also, a lot of people have said to me, you are too detailed. And I never knew why too detailed was not good, because I would see things and say, but you're missing this or you're missing that. Apparently, I see it and the others don't see it, and are not bothered with it. And I had to unlearn in the business world to be detailed. So I had to use that trait when it's necessary, because other people would totally days off or whatever, because I would be too much in the details of whatever was going on. So yeah, this is a good lesson about my own design and to listen to all the stories. So thank you very much.
Yes, yes. And thank you, Danielle, for sharing your stories as well. It really connects to everything that we're talking about. And I know for myself personally, not having either of these traits, listening to each of you and the experiences has given me all kinds of ahas of both working with individual clients and how it works for them, but also working with managers and how to lead and guide your teams based on what you were saying, Danielle and Boris, this communication, and based on what Banu was saying of how to really be able to take advantage and utilize this energy for what it really is. And for example, if you can't utilize the details, both Chris and Danielle, you've both mentioned it, and you get really, really detailed, and then people aren't interested in the details. And so making sure that you're in an area or in a role where those details really are important, because you love the details and you don't want to overlook the details, right? You don't want to miss this, you don't want to miss this. So I think it's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Danielle. Beautiful. And anyone else who is live in our Zoom room who would like to share or have anything, any experiences that you've had either with trait 9 or with trait 34 before we wrap up for today. All right. Well, excellent. This has been an absolutely amazing, amazing discussion. I love being a witness to the dynamics that unfolded today, because we really saw these dynamics live and in person as they were happening. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Thank you to our panel. Thank you to Danielle as well for your contribution. And we invite you, again, you can see, as Danielle said, I wish I had learned this a lot earlier. I know for myself personally, I wish I knew all of this information when I was a lot younger. There is so much more. And so I spent most of my life trying to fix myself because I thought there was something wrong with me. And I think this system is the first system where there really is nothing wrong. We're just not being utilized in the correct way. And as Banu and as Boris had mentioned earlier, imagine if everyone was doing what they love and loving what they do, and their skills were utilized in the proper way to do the proper thing, and that we're not wasting our energy doing what we're not good at, or we're not successful at, or things that we should be, we think we should be good at, like Shelley was talking about as well. So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant conversation. Thank you, everyone. We invite you, if you do want to go more in depth, if you want to find out more information, we do have the BG5 Foundation course. The Dutch course is just starting. Natalie's not here with us today, but she is starting a Dutch course. So if you are in the Netherlands or in Belgium and you speak Dutch, I would invite you to join Natalie's class. I'm also starting the BG5 Foundation course starting in January. There is also a course in Chinese as well as Romanian as well, starting in January. So we invite you to jump in and experience the foundation course starting in January. January is right around the corner, so we'd love to have you join us. And if you want a strategy session, if you want to understand yourself a bit more and you're wondering if this is correct for you, a strategy session is the best place to start. All right, so let's wrap everything up. Next week, we're going to also have a logical focus trait 5, which is fixed patterns that lead to progress. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at next week. So once again, thank you, everyone. If everyone wants to turn on their camera, we would love to see all of your faces as we sign off for today. It's been absolutely a pleasure to have each and every one of you here. Thank you to our panel. Thank you for being here. This has been an amazing conversation, and look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye, everyone. And if you want to unmute and say goodbye too, yes.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.